I stood there frozen, trying to understand what had just happened. My grandma's eyes were locked on mine, like she was waiting for me to say something that would make sense of it all. But I had nothing. My mind was blank. People around us started whispering. I could feel the tension building in the room, but I didn't even know why. All I knew was that something was very wrong. My grandma stepped closer to me, her voice softer now but serious. "Elric, you really don't know?" she asked. I shook my head slowly. My chest felt tight. I wasn't scared, not yet. Just confused. She looked around the room, then back at me. I could see something change in her expression. It wasn't just confusion anymore. It was concern, maybe even hurt. "Come with me," she said quietly. We walked away from the crowd and into a quieter part of the house. I could still hear the music in the background, but everything felt distant, like I wasn't really there anymore. I turned to her. "Grandma, what are you talking about? What house?" She didn't answer right away. Instead, she just stared at me like she was trying to figure something out. Then she took a deep breath. "I need you to tell me the truth," she said. "Where have you been living all this time?" That question hit me harder than I expected. "You know where I live," I replied. "With Mom and Dad." She slowly shook her head. "No, that's not what I mean." At that moment, I felt something shift inside me. A strange feeling I couldn't explain. It was like a puzzle piece didn't fit anymore, like something in my life wasn't adding up. I looked at her again, this time more seriously. "Grandma, what's going on?" She hesitated, and that scared me more than anything. Because for the first time I realized, whatever she was about to say could change everything. Looking back, things never really made sense in my childhood. I didn't notice it at first, but as I got older, the small details started to feel strange. My parents always talked about how tight money was. They would complain about bills, say things were getting expensive, and remind me again and again that we had to be careful. Because of that, I learned early not to ask for much. If I needed something, I tried to handle it myself. By the time I was a teenager, I had already started working part-time. After school, while other kids were relaxing or hanging out, I was stocking shelves or doing small jobs just to earn enough for basic things. Clothes, school supplies, even small personal needs, I covered most of it on my own. Whenever I asked my parents for help, the answer was always the same. They would sigh, look stressed, and say, "We've done so much for you already." Or, "You don't understand how much we've sacrificed." After hearing that so many times, I stopped asking. But what confused me was everything else. Despite all their complaints about money, they didn't seem to live like they were struggling. Every now and then, they would go on trips. Not cheap ones either. They had nice clothes, expensive watches, and things that didn't match the story they kept telling me. I remember once asking about it, just out of curiosity. The answer came quickly. "We deserve to enjoy life too," they said. And that was the end of the conversation. I didn't argue. I didn't question it further. I just accepted it, even though something didn't feel right. It wasn't just about money. It was the way things were handled. The way I was always told to manage on my own, while they lived differently. At the time, I convinced myself that maybe this was normal. Maybe every family was like this in some way. But deep down, there was always a quiet feeling that something didn't add up. There was only one person in my life who didn't treat me the same way as everyone else, my grandma, Maribel. With her, things felt calm. Simple. Real. Whenever I visited her, I didn't feel like I had to think twice before speaking or asking for something. She never made me feel like a burden. Instead, she welcomed me in a way that made me feel seen. She always noticed the small things. If I looked tired, she would ask why. If I seemed quiet, she would sit next to me without saying much, just being there. And somehow, that was enough. Sometimes, before I left, she would quietly slip some cash into my hand. Not in a big or obvious way. Just a gentle gesture, like she didn't want anyone else to notice. When I tried to refuse, she would smile and close my fingers over it. "Keep it," she'd say. "You might need it." I never argued with her. It didn't feel right to. Her house was also the only place where I felt completely comfortable. She would cook meals she knew I liked, even if I hadn't asked for them. It was like she remembered everything about me, even the things I didn't think were important. But there was one thing she used to say that always stayed in my mind. Every now and then, during quiet moments, she would look at me and say, "Don't worry about your future. I've already taken care of it." At the time, I didn't think much of it. I thought it was just her way of showing love, like a promise that everything would be okay someday. I never asked her what she meant. It felt like one of those things you don't question because it comes from a place of care. So I just smiled, nodded, and moved on. I had no idea that those words actually meant something real. We stood there in silence for a moment, away from everyone else. I could tell she was trying to stay calm, but something was clearly bothering her. She looked at me again, more serious this time. "I need you to listen carefully," she said. I nodded, still unsure where this was going. "I bought you a house," she said. "Years ago. It's fully paid. It's in your name." For a second, I thought I heard her wrong. "A house?" I repeated. "For me?" She nodded without hesitation. "Yes. I made sure everything was done properly. It belongs to you." My mind started racing. None of this made sense. I had never signed anything. I had never been told anything. There was no way something this big could exist without me knowing. "I've never seen it," I said slowly. "No one ever told me anything about it." Her expression changed. The calm look on her face disappeared, replaced with something much heavier. "That's not possible," she said. "I made it clear it was yours. I trusted that everything would be handled the right way." I felt a strange pressure building in my chest. If what she was saying was true, then something had gone very wrong. "Where is it?" I asked. She gave me the location without hesitation. It was a place I had never been to, not even close to anywhere I knew. That made it worse. I tried to think back, to remember if there was ever a moment when something like this was mentioned, even indirectly. But there was nothing. No hint, no clue, nothing at all. "Are you sure it's under my name?" I asked again, needing to hear it one more time. "Yes," she said firmly. I made sure of it. That's when the confusion started turning into something else. Because if the house really existed, and it was really mine, then why had it been kept from me this whole time? The next morning, I didn't waste any time. I met my grandma early, and we went straight to the property office. Neither of us said much on the way. There was no point guessing anymore. We needed answers. When we got there, she walked in with confidence, like she had nothing to hide. I stayed close, still trying to prepare myself for whatever we were about to find. She gave the details to the clerk and asked them to pull up the records. It took a few minutes, but to me, it felt much longer. My thoughts kept spinning, going from confusion to doubt, then back again. Finally, the clerk turned the screen toward us. "There it is," he said. My heart dropped. The property was real. The address matched what my grandma had told me. And right there, under ownership, was my name. For a moment, I just stared at it. I didn't know what to feel. It was true. Everything she said was real. But then things got worse. I asked about the current status of the house. The clerk checked again and said, "It's occupied." I frowned. "By who?" He looked at the file, then said the names out loud. "My parents." I felt like the ground shifted under me. I thought maybe I misunderstood, so I asked him to repeat it. But the answer didn't change. They were living there. My grandma looked just as shocked as I felt. But it didn't stop there. I asked if there had been any activity linked to the property. Payments, records, anything. The clerk nodded and pulled up more details. That's when everything became clear in the worst way possible. There were records showing regular rental payments. For years. Someone had been collecting money from that house. And it wasn't me. I didn't say anything after that. I couldn't. Because at that point, the confusion was gone. Now, I knew the truth. And it hurt more than I expected. I didn't wait long after discovering the truth. I went straight to my parents' house, my heart pounding but my mind clear. I had to confront them. I had to hear it from them directly. When I walked in, they looked surprised to see me. Darian raised an eyebrow, and Celeste gave me a faint smile. "Elric, what's wrong?" Celeste asked. I didn't answer. I held up the documents from the property office and placed them on the table. "Explain this," I said calmly. Darian laughed nervously. "That's just a mistake. I'm sure the papers are wrong." Celeste added, "You don't understand, it's complicated." I didn't move. I just waited. They looked at each other, then back at me. Their denial started to crack when I went over every detail: ownership records, rental income, the house address. Every fact lined up perfectly. Finally, Darian's face changed. The confident, dismissive look was gone. "Fine," he said, almost whispering. "Yes. We took it." I felt a sharp pain in my chest. "Why?" I asked. My voice was steady, but I could barely hold back my anger. Celeste's eyes filled with a strange mixture of guilt and pride. "We raised you, didn't we? We sacrificed everything for you," she said. "We deserved something in return." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. They admitted it. After years of keeping me struggling, they had used my own house for their gain. My parents, the people I trusted the most, had hidden something so important from me. Darian shrugged, like it was nothing serious. "We never planned to tell you. You were too young to understand." I stared at them, trying to process it all. Every memory of growing up, every struggle I had endured while they lived comfortably, suddenly made sense. And it made my chest feel heavy with anger and betrayal. I realized in that moment that nothing would ever be the same. Their betrayal wasn't just about money or a house, it was about trust, love, and the way they had treated me all my life. And now, I knew exactly what I had to do next. I left their house without saying another word, my hands still shaking. The words they had said kept repeating in my mind. "We deserved it, we raised you." How could they say that? How could they justify taking something that was mine all along? For the first time, I felt the full weight of everything I had been through. All those nights I stayed up worrying about bills, all the jobs I worked just to make ends meet, all the sacrifices I thought we had made together as a family, it had all been one-sided. I remembered the small victories I had shared with them, thinking we were celebrating together. I thought we were struggling together. But no, they had been living comfortably while I was barely scraping by. They had let me suffer without ever telling me the truth. I walked through the streets, trying to calm my mind. Every familiar place, every memory of home now felt tainted. Even the sound of my parents' voices seemed different, hollow, dishonest. I thought about my grandma. How quietly she had tried to protect me, how she had given me clues and hints all these years. Her love had been real, but my parents had undermined it at every turn. Anger surged through me, but it was mixed with a deeper, sharper pain. Betrayal isn't just anger, it's the loss of trust, the realization that the people you rely on the most could lie so easily. I sat down on a nearby bench, my head in my hands. I had to let it sink in. I had to accept that nothing about my family was what I thought it was. Every lesson they claimed to have taught me, every hardship they said was for my growth, now felt like a manipulation. Tears came, though I tried to fight them back. It hurt too much, not just the loss of money or opportunity, but the truth about who they really were. At that moment, I made a silent promise to myself. I wouldn't let this define me. I wouldn't stay broken by their lies. I would take back control of my life, and I would make sure they felt the consequences of the betrayal they had caused. Because some wounds only heal when you stand up for yourself. After I had time to process everything, I knew I couldn't just yell or argue. That wouldn't fix anything. I had to be smart. I had to make sure the house, and everything that was mine, was returned without giving them a chance to fight or manipulate me again. I called my grandma, Maribel, and we sat down together. She had been quietly supporting me all these years, and now her calm guidance was exactly what I needed. She helped me go through every document, every record connected to the house, and made sure I had proof of ownership in my hands. Step by step, we collected everything. The official deeds, proof of payments, and even records showing how my parents had been using the house and collecting money from it. We were careful. Every detail had to be correct. If we made even one mistake, they could try to twist it. Once we had everything organized, I found a lawyer who could act quickly. I didn't tell my parents anything. I didn't leave room for them to manipulate the situation or come up with excuses. I wanted the action to be sudden, clear, and undeniable. We discussed strategy with the lawyer. I wanted them to realize immediately that they couldn't escape what they had done. No threats, no yelling, just legal authority. The law was on my side, and this time I wasn't going to be ignored or underestimated. While preparing, I also made sure I was ready emotionally. This wasn't about revenge and anger, it was about justice. I had been patient for too long, struggling while they benefited. Now, it was my turn to reclaim what was mine, and I would do it calmly, deliberately, and decisively. As the plan came together, I felt a sense of control I hadn't felt in years. For the first time, the weight of their betrayal didn't feel like it was crushing me. Instead, it was fueling me. I knew that when the day came to act, they wouldn't see it coming, and I would finally take back what was mine without question. The morning the eviction notice arrived, I knew the moment had come. Darianne and Celeste opened it with confusion at first. Their faces shifted from surprise to anger as they read the words, "The house they had taken from me was officially being reclaimed." They called me immediately, shouting over the phone. "This has to be a mistake," Darianne yelled. Celeste added, "Who would do this to us?" I didn't answer their calls. I wanted them to feel the weight of what they had done without any distractions. Later that day, I went to the house myself, calmly walking up to the door. I had all the legal documents with me, signed, verified, and ready. When they saw me standing there, their anger turned into disbelief. "Elric? What are you doing here?" Celeste demanded. I held up the papers. "Everything is official. The house is mine. You are to leave immediately." They tried to argue, saying it was unfair, saying they raised me and deserved something. But it didn't matter anymore. The law was clear, and the proof was undeniable. I stayed calm and composed, knowing that anger wouldn't make this any stronger. "You taught me how to survive without you," I said, looking them in the eyes. "Now it's your turn to do the same." They were silent for a moment, realizing that there was no way to fight back. Every excuse they had used over the years, every lie, every justification, it was gone. The truth was in my hands. Slowly, they gathered their things, moving out of the house they had stolen. I watched them leave, feeling a mix of relief and quiet satisfaction. It wasn't about revenge in the way people think of it. I didn't yell or humiliate them. I simply reclaimed what was mine, using the right way to do it. Standing in the house for the first time, I felt a sense of peace I hadn't felt in years. I had taken back control, restored what was mine, and finally protected the life that had been quietly prepared for me all along. For the first time, I could breathe without carrying their lies and betrayals on my shoulders. I was free. Moving into the house felt strange at first. It was finally mine, but it also carried the weight of everything that had happened. Every room reminded me of the betrayal, every corner of the house was proof that my parents had lied and stolen from me. Grandma Maribel was there with me, helping me settle in. She smiled softly, proud of what I had done, but I could see the sadness in her eyes. She had watched her own children betray me, and it hurt her deeply. Yet she never stopped supporting me, and that made the victory feel real and honest. I spent the first few days organizing, unpacking, and finally feeling a sense of peace I hadn't known in years. For so long, I had been living under the weight of lies, struggling to make ends meet while my parents benefited from what was rightfully mine. Now, that struggle was over. I thought a lot about the past, about everything I had endured. The hard work, the nights I spent worrying, the moments I felt abandoned, I realized all of it had shaped me. I had learned resilience, patience, and strength in ways I never could have imagined. Cutting ties with my parents wasn't easy. I didn't do it out of anger, though. I did it because I needed to protect myself. Toxicity like theirs could have dragged me back into pain if I let it. Choosing peace over revenge in the long run felt stronger than any moment of anger I could have shown. As days turned into weeks, the house became more than just a place. It became a symbol of control, of justice, and of life lived on my own terms. I finally had the freedom to make decisions for myself, to live without fear of being betrayed again. In the end, I realized that the strongest revenge isn't screaming, fighting, or hurting others. The real power comes from taking back control of your life, reclaiming what's yours, and refusing to let anyone have that power over you again. Standing in the living room, looking out at the quiet street, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time: relief, safety, and a sense that I was finally home.